I love a good TED Talk. The range of things you can learn span from hella useful to just plain obscure. But then, just as with any platform, you also get some agenda-pushing knuckleheads. And this talk is no exception, as Lindsey of Queer Kid Stuff takes to the stage to tell us why we should talk to our kids about LGBT issues. Because, you know, who needs a childhood, am I right?
All right. Let's get this kicked off.
No, Lindsey, put the ukulele down. No! Well, that shaved about 30 seconds off of the original video and also prevented me from banging my head against my desk to the rhythm of Loco by Coal Chamber. I don't know what it is about ukuleles, but when someone pulls one out, I just know we're not gonna get along, you know?
Opening a performance with lyrics like "It's okay to be gay" for a room full of adults is one thing, but it's entirely different for a room full of kindergartners.
Well, yeah, just like how you probably shouldn't sing a song about the World Trade Center. Lots of people got killed. They're just too young, aren't they? Anything beyond some families have a mum and a dad, some have just one of them, and some families have two dads or two mums. Anything beyond that, and you're gonna end up explaining lesbian bed death to a room full of horrified preschoolers.
What you just heard is the theme song for my web series, Queer Kid Stuff.
Well, joke's on you. I fast-forwarded through that. I've heard it enough. I've had days when I can't get it out of my head. No one wants to live like that.
Where I make LGBTQ+ and social justice videos for all ages. And when I say all ages, I mean literal babies to your great-great-grandma.
Literal babies. Literal babies. You've done a video on homophobia. You're telling me that was for literal babies. You monster. And how many people in that room do you think have a great-great-grandma who's still alive and kicking? And if she is still around, do you think her innate homophobia is going to be quashed by some haircut in a bow tie? Think it through.
Now I know what you're thinking.
I highly doubt that, Lindsey.
Whoa, they're talking about gay stuff with kids?
Actually, no, that was pretty accurate.
But talking to kids about gay stuff is actually crucial.
Why? We never used to do that, and gay people still exist, don't they? And why kids, Lindsey? Why not teenagers? Isn't that a little more age-appropriate? You only have to take a look at what some people wear to pride parades to see it isn't kid-friendly. Just Google Pride dildo outfit to see what I mean, if the name isn't enough for you.
The American Academy of Pediatrics has found that children have a solid understanding of their gender identity by the age of 4.
Well, considering you decided you were non-binary in 2018, I'm guessing you'd like to change that, wouldn't you? Either that, or you've just proven you have the mind of a 3-year-old.
This is when children are developing their sense of self. They're observing the world around them, absorbing that information, and internalizing it.
So that's the ideal time to mentally scar them then, is it? I mean, your videos are basically a social experiment to see what happens if you teach little children about sexuality, and it could totally backfire. Give it 15 years and then ask them how they feel about LGBT. I wonder how many of them will say, no, don't like them, ruined my childhood. You could be responsible for the next generation being homophobic, Lindsey. What are you gonna do then? Blame the schools?
Now, most parents want their children to become kind, empathetic, self-confident adults, and exposure to diversity is an important part of that social and emotional development.
Have you just completely forgot about our generation who weren't exposed to this stuff at a young age and have still turned out to be the most accepting generation of all time? I mean, look at you, Lindsey. What YouTube videos were you watching at the age of 4? Well, looking at you, it's obvious you were obsessed with Pee Wee Herman.
And gender nonconforming kids and trans kids and kids with trans and non-binary and queer parents are everywhere.
Was that a threat then? They're everywhere and they're coming to get you. Now, trans, queer, non-binary parents, yeah, fine. Except for the non-binary because that's just not real. But trans kids? There are no trans kids. There are only children who've been told they are. I mean, let's go back to this little man. Look at that pronoun t-shirt. Do you think he went online and bought that, or did his parents buy it for him? Who even knows about pronouns at that age, let alone wants a t-shirt to control everyone's language when they're talking about him? No, it's the parents. Come on, this is a 7-minute video I'm working with. Look alive.
In the series, my stuffed bear co-host and I talk about the LGBT community, activism, gender and pronouns, consent, and body positivity.
Oh yeah, perfectly appropriate for children, isn't it? Never mind kids won't understand half of the words you just used. How do you explain something like non-binary to them? Well, some people aren't boys or girls, and the kids are like, well, what the fuck are they then? Marshmallows? Stop putting your own social issues onto them, Lindsey. The world just gets darker and darker as you grow up. Let them be kids before that happens.
We tackle these topics through songs, not unlike the one you just heard.
Boo!
Simple definitions and metaphors. We approach these ideas, to steal a phrase from an old professor of mine, from under the doorknob.
Under the door? What does that mean? What kind of college was it you went to, Lindsey? Clown?
Getting down to toddler height and looking up at the great big world through their tiny little eyes.
And thinking to yourself, this kid's too happy. I need to do something about that.
Taking these seemingly complex ideas and simplifying them. Not dumbing them down, but homing in on the core concept.
Of what? Some people are gay? Yeah, job done. No need to go any further into it, is there? I'd say it's pretty simplified, doesn't bring up any social or political issues, and doesn't try to promote certain lifestyles with what is essentially propaganda in song form. You aren't normalizing LGBT, Lindsey. You're aggrandizing it.
Gender is about how we feel and how we express ourselves.
No, it's not. Gender is not clothes. You studied theatre, Lindsey. At what point did putting on a tree costume actually make you a tree?
Sexuality is about love and gender and family, not about sex.
Yes, it is. It's got sexual in the word. It starts with the word sexual. Romance is about love, gender pertains to biology, and family is all the descendants of a common ancestor. You can't just go around making shit up, Lindsey.
And these are all ideas children can grasp.
Oh yeah, it's easy to lie to kids, isn't it?
In one of my earliest episodes about gender, I used the idea of pronouns to underscore the definition and introduce gender-neutral pronouns like they and them.
I know, I saw it. It did not go well. That was a good attempt at making it sound complicated, though. I mean, all you really did was say, some people prefer to be called they. And I'm like, well, okay, I prefer not to pander to these people. And honestly, I think I'm the grown-up in that situation.
I encourage children to think about their own pronouns and to ask others for theirs.
Or as is commonly known, wasting time.
In later episodes, I build on this foundation and introduce big, fancy words like non-binary and transgender. I get emails from viewers in their 20s who use my videos to explain non-binary gender to their grandparents.
Well, I bet that went really well, didn't it? It's not like the older generation have a habit of being homophobic, transphobic, and just plain stubborn. No, they're gonna be lectured on gender by someone who's been on this earth for around a quarter of a lifetime and who wouldn't even exist if it weren't for them. But look how smug she is. She's a baby compared to these people, but no, she knows better. Never mind the concept of non-binary people was something conceived on Tumblr a couple of years ago, and that being trans means actually transitioning instead of wearing the clothing of the opposite sex. No, Lindsey knows best.
But I get one comment over and over again.
Do you though? The comments on your videos have been disabled, so do you though?
Let kids be kids.
Well, yeah. What's wrong with that? Do you hate them or something?
Well, that's a nice sentiment and all, but only if it actually includes all kids.
Why wouldn't it? Who's this person who left that comment, Lindsey? A Filipino sweatshop owner? A workhouse from the Victorian era?
Just a few weeks ago, a 15-year-old in Huntsville, Alabama, died by suicide after being bullied for being gay. In 2018, it was a 7-year-old in Denver, Colorado.
Well, that's very sad and shouldn't have happened. I mean, 7 years old. But kids will bully each other over whatever reason they can find. Kids are evil, man. And unfortunately, no amount of videos or stop bullying signs is ever gonna change that.
There have been and will be many more. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual teens are more than 3 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual peers, and transgender teens are almost 6 times more likely.
Again, very sad, and it shouldn't happen. Sounds like being transgender isn't something you should go around promoting, doesn't it? Sounds like it's not cool or trendy to be trans. It's actually a serious mental illness which shouldn't be treated as a fashion statement.
According to one study, roughly 1/3 of homeless youth identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or questioning, and about 4% of homeless youth identify as transgender, compared with 1% of the general youth population surveyed.
Okay, yeah, I can't argue with stats, but what about all of this is child-friendly again?
According to the Human Rights Campaign, there have been 128 killings of trans people in 87 cities across 32 states since 2013, and those are only the reported cases.
Yeah, I mean, very sad. Thoughts and prayers. And when you think about it, saying gender is down to your clothes is kind of spitting in the face of genuine transgenders, isn't it? Those with actual body dysphoria who've tried to alleviate their symptoms by transitioning medically or surgically, only to kill themselves because the symptoms are still there, or to be murdered by someone for being different. I think you should take transgenderism a little more seriously than saying it's down to how you dress, Lindsey. It's insulting to those you're currently talking about.
And 80% of those killings were of trans women of color.
Oh, put it back in the deck.
The queer situation is bleak, to say the least.
Yeah, agreed. So why would someone go around enforcing their pronouns on other people or constantly tell everyone they're trans? Actual transgenders don't do that. They try to integrate into the gender of which they've transitioned. That's the point of it.
The YouTube comments on my videos are not much better.
Again, which comments are those, Lindsey?
I'm used to the harassment. I get messages daily telling me I'm a pedophile and that I should kill myself in a number of increasingly creative ways.
Bit harsh, but people tend to be protective of their children and take exception to those who tell them it's cool to be transgender when the rate of suicide is so high.
I once had to put the word truck on my block list because someone wanted me to get run over by a truck.
Are you new to the internet or something? People will say that to you if you share a gif of puppies on Twitter.
Shower and oven are in there too for the less creative and more disturbing Holocaust reference.
Or maybe you just look like you need to bathe and eat more healthily.
When neo-Nazis marched in Charlottesville, I was unsurprised to learn that the creator of a violent Reddit meme about one of my episodes was in the Tiki Torch crowd.
What's a violent meme? We need to have a discussion about what that word means, Lindsey.
This barrage of negativity is what we're up against. The crushing statistics, the violence, the mental health risks.
All equate to something you shouldn't be promoting to easily influence young minds?
The well-meaning but flawed response my parents gave me when I came out, that they didn't want me to have a harder life.
So you put yourself in the line of fire by making videos aimed at, what was the phrase, literal babies, and then make a TED Talk complaining that you get backlash.
That's what we're up against.
And you're doing a great job of fighting it by having a child drag queen on your show, aren't you? Here's another photo of him. Look at those eyes. Tell me they aren't empty, like he's dealing with severe trauma, or on drugs, or both. But no, it's cool. Let's teach kids about this.
But in the face of all that, I choose joy.
I hear you saying that a lot, Lindsey. Is it because you have a range of merchandise with that slogan? No, it couldn't be.
I choose rainbows and unicorns and glitter, and I sing that it's okay to be gay with my childhood stuffed teddy bear.
Have you considered talking to a therapist about that? I mean, unicorns and a stuffed bear, it's just not healthy, is it?
I make queer media for kids because I wish I had this when I was their age.
Why? You still turned out to be gay, didn't you? What difference would it have made?
I make it so others don't have to struggle through what I did, not understanding my identity because I didn't have any exposure to who I could be.
Or maybe you were a child and your sexuality didn't develop until you were older. I mean, saying children have a sexuality is going down a dangerous heart's progress route, Lindsey.
I teach and spread this message through joy and positivity instead of framing it around the hardships of queer life.
Or rather, saying it's awesome to be gay and hiding the fact that you will face adversity. Kinda like army recruiters outside high schools going, join the armed forces, see the world, without mentioning the likelihood that you might die.
I want kids to grow up and into themselves with pride for who they are and who they can be, no matter who they love or what they wear or what pronouns they use.
I want that too, Lindsay. I just don't want to live in a world where gender is apparently in your head, but it's up to everyone else to validate it.
And I want them to love others for their differences, not in spite of them.
Wouldn't it be better if we just didn't care about those differences? There are many facets to who you are, and being gay doesn't automatically make you a good person. Now, I shouldn't have to say that, but here we are.
I think fostering this pride and empathy will make the world a kinder and more equal place.
Not when you have the upcoming generation thinking their sexuality is the biggest thing about them. If anything, that's going to make the world a more bitchy place.
And combat the bigotry and hate that festers in our world. So, talk to a kid about gender.
No! For one, that's not my job, or yours. It's down to the parents. And secondly, there are no adults who fully understand your gender argument, since it keeps changing as new genders are fabricated and people come up with brand new ways of getting offended. I don't think we should teach children it's up to everyone else to make them happy, nor do I think the burden of validating someone's identity should rest on them. That's a horrible world you're trying to create, Lindsay. I say leave it all alone. If this I'm special and therefore oppressed culture is still around in 10, 20 years' time, then fine, you do you. But if it fades away into obscurity, well, that's fine too. Thanks for watching, guys. Please consider becoming a patron because that was one long video I had to go through. And check me out on BitChute because it's not going to ban me for daring to have a different outlook than the so-called tolerant progressives. The links are in the description, and remember, it started with gay means happy, then all of a sudden, suicide rates.